Welcome back. After trying to turn us into a web server, which worked quite nicely, we moved to SSH. SSH is quite a useful way to work remotely on various machines. So hopefully at the end of this session we are able to connect to our Kali machine from our main operating system. In order to do that, if you work on a Windows machine, you have to download PuTTY, which is a nice graphical user interface which can connect to SSH in quite an easy manner. You actually just navigate to this website, putty.org, and download the package here. And I will show you this in a second. So I already did the download, have it stored here. I double click on it, and that's all there is to it. There's no further installation needed. You just execute the application. And it's already in default mode, so here you have selected the SSH as a default mode. You shouldn't change anything. You just need to put in the IP address, which would be your Kali machine's IP address, which you obtain from the IPA command or if config command as discussed in the previous session. Port 22, this is already default, so there's nothing else to do. Good. Before we can do anything, we have to start the SSH server. We do this going back to our Kali machine. Let's get started. Let's type in service SSH start, and that should start the machine. Now, usually, if you run this for the first time, you will run into a problem. So here I get my password prompt, I put in the password and it should run, but this usually doesn't work in your case, and I'll show you why. So at the moment I just type in status, I see we are now running. So actually on my system it's already nicely configured, it's all up and running. On your system this most likely does not run, because you actually use here the captain user, which has root privileges, and that is an issue with SSH. Usually this is not permitted for security reasons. So to get around this problem, so what do we need to do? So put differently, this won't work in your case right now. What we have to do is we have to change the configuration so that the root password is accepted for starting SSH. Now we need to locate a file, so just type in locate, and it's already typed here, is sshd _config. So that's a particular file where all the information is stored about configuration of SSH, and we have to have a look where this is. So we have a config file that should be stored in you see this etc ssh. Let's just go there. So we do a change directory etc ssh, and then we can just read this file using the cat or the less, what we have done before, or we can also, which we have used last time, use nano to actually modify it as well. So read and modify if needed. So SSH config, I open that, and that should push me in. Good, so here we get various comments. So always hashtag is a comment, it's not executed, and then we have the first actually executed line here, which tells me that I also have to include other files. Yeah, you see that here also using the asterisk as the wildcard. The port is always default 22. Again, you can of course modify this, but at the moment we don't do any modification here. Further down you have a line which talks about permit root login. Now Under standard default settings, this is initially not enabled. Yeah, so initially you don't see the yes written here. You see that this line is not enabled, is not permitted to log in. So that's what you have to change first. So please do what I have done here. Modify this to permit root login using yes, which would enable you as root to log in with your standard password. After you have done this, you use Ctrl O to write it and Ctrl X to exit. And then this sequence, which we just have done, SSH start, should work. Always check whether it's running using SSH status. This is simply just to nicely check whether things are up and running. I do the SSH localhost just again to see whether everything is in working order. Again, this will not work if you haven't changed your configuration, but after you changed it, you should be able to put in your standard password, and it should run through. Yeah, so with any issue. Yeah, so that should be fine. So now we have it enabled. We should be ready to go. We already noted our IP address, which we have noted down earlier. I hope I still have it somewhere. And now I go to the Windows machine. Okay, let's do that. It might be a good idea just to test whether things are working, or whether there's again any issue with your firewalls or anything else. Just to ping it using the IP address. Let me just put that in to make sure we have the right address written down, and we see how it goes. So it's pinging and it seems to all run fine. So that's pretty good. So that's good to know. Good, so I close the Windows command prompt and I open now my PuTTY and I execute this. I just double click on this, and in here we can't really make this any bigger. Hopefully you can see this properly. We put in our IP address. Port 22, that's all default. We just try to open this and see what happens. Yeah, of course things can go wrong, and mostly they actually do go wrong. Now you see here a login detail. You see a statement about login as, and now you have to know the details. So in our case it's Captain, that's my user, and the password for Captain, hopefully I remember this, I did actually, and now you see I'm in. So you see I get my prompt, which looks just like the standard Kali prompt, but having in mind I'm logging in from my Windows machine. Yeah, so now actually from my main operating system, from Windows machine, I'm logged into my Kali machine as Captain. And of course now I can have a little bit of fun. I could, for instance, do something like this. Echo, then I already put it in here, I hacked you, or hi, surprise, and I just output this into a file, and I just call this file txt. So that would of course go into the main directory, so I just do that and see what happens. Okay, oops, I forgot something. I forgot to close the quotation marks. Okay, so that doesn't work. Let me go back. Let me just try to fix that. So here we go, let's fix that. Quotation marks have to be closed, otherwise everything is a string, which of course is nonsense. And here we are. I can do the normal ls command. Again, have in mind I'm actually on Windows. And you see now my file is nicely displayed. It's just here, so it's on the system, so that should work. And now I just close that connection. I just close that, end the session, so that's fine. So we are out from Windows. Go back into Kali, and well, I don't see anything. I don't see what is going on. I can try to see what happened looking at the history. Okay, let's just do this. So if you go ls -la, I see here my history. This is the SSH file. I do simply a cat on this .SSH history and look. Okay, and here you see actually what you have done. Yeah, you see that. So in here I did my first mistake. Yeah, you see that, and then I corrected the mistake. And then I did ls -l. So actually in the history file it's recorded what I have done. But again, have in mind I have done this on my Windows machine. Good. So if you now go into my directory, you see now this file popping up. And also I should, because I'm still captain, I should be able to read it as well. So I just do that now. Just use that. Hi, surprise. So here we are. So it works. We put this together on our Windows prompt and it appears here in our Kali machine. So the SSH connection worked very nicely, which is great. However, very often this doesn't work as expected, so be careful. And I'll talk about this in a minute. Just now remove this file, check one more time. It's all done. It all looks tidy. SSH is still running, so let me just stop this because I don't want to have this forever. I stop that, and that would require my password, and it should be stopped. I always routinely just make sure it's really stopped and do status. And here you see now it should be inactive. So to really check, you can always run PuTTY one more time. You put in your IP address, here we go, 1177, and try to open a session. And you see network error connection refused, so it doesn't work anymore. Yeah, so here we are. So we are all done. So that's pretty good. So now we saw how to use SSH to connect from a different machine to basically connect remotely. Which is great. Of course, we still had to know the usernames and passwords. Yeah, we haven't done any actual hacking yet. But of course, you see that potentially that can be used for certain attacks in principle. Now, I just want to take a few minutes to talk about some troubleshooting, because this sometimes doesn't quite work, and there are some reasons for that. The first reason very often could be some firewall settings. On the slides I provide some further details on that, how to actually check your settings. So just in here you would go into settings, and from there you can check your network settings and your firewall settings. So if you put in here, I think it's Defender security settings, yeah, it should be actually here. The thing is, it's kind of really messy. I'm not a big fan of Windows because there's so many different ways to go to the same place. It's a bit messy. So here we are, firewall settings, and firewall network protection. Yeah, but it doesn't show me actually what I was looking for, really. No, it doesn't show me. So that's one odd way to enter. There is another one which I actually enter, which is actually the useful one. So I go back in here, and I think I put in the Windows Defender firewall. Here we are. Yeah, so that's the one. So it's a bit messy. I'm not a big fan of it. And in here you see, in my case, I can't change the settings here because it's managed in my my own security software. Yeah, so you see here the statement that is McAfee is running it. So I can't change any settings in here. So I have to open my McAfee, which I have done in the previous session. So you always have to check your own system and make sure this is working as you would expect it to work. The other thing which where I had issues with, which also might affect, again, it depends very much on your operating system, it depends on many different factors, is the way to connect your machine. And this is defined in your VirtualBox. So in here in the VirtualBox, you have the settings. And usually, if you click on settings, in the network settings, I usually recommend using NAT. So that is basically the way to connect machines on a network. This didn't work in my case. This made problems with my SSH connection, so I moved this to bridged adapter and it worked a treat. So that worked fine. So sometimes you have to check that and you have to modify this. The only thing you have to note is later, when we set up other machines, they all have to have the same adapter settings. Yeah, so the same network settings to be precise. So we then stick to bridged adapter, otherwise they could not communicate. That's the only thing to note. So as I said, quite often things don't work as expected and you might need to modify it. So be always prepared for these issues, but this is like in real life. Whenever you work on various systems, you will find oddities, things that for whatever reason don't work, and you have to think about this and you think about alternative ways of getting there. So it's important for you also to practice this. So don't get scared if you are receiving error messages. This is perfectly normal. Actually, this is happening to me almost every day. That's also very true when you do any coding. Debugging is actually most of the fun. Good, this is all I wanted to show in this session. In the next session, we talk about users, groups, and permissions, and this will then close our discussion of networks. I see you in the next session.